in a public forum where we can all come out and talk. The next one, we're going to set it up so we can come out and do this, man. So I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, no problem, and I'll definitely be listening.
All right, appreciate it, man. See, that's the thing, is that I think a lot of times we get to a situation to where it's them, them, them. That may be true. But sometimes it's us, us, us. And until we make a change, it's hard to look at somebody else and say that they need to change. Because you give them the ammunition to look back at you and say, well, where's your change? How do you expect us to change when you haven't changed? And so then you get this match going back and forth saying, well, I'm going to change. Well, you need to change. We need. No. Start with yourself in the mirror. It's one of the main things that I always preach on this show. And I tell you what, we have a special guest right now. He's live on the air right here on Radio Therapy. How you doing, sir?
How you doing, sir?
Man, I'm doing good, man. So I didn't want to, man, look, I'm terrible at names, and I jack up names all the time. So I know the first name is Asa, and I'm trying to get the last name right.
No problem. Asa Leveaux. Asa Leveaux.
Asa Leveaux. Asa Leveaux, man. I appreciate you taking the time out. I know I put a post out today, man. You got tagged on it. So thank you, brother, for taking the time out to talk to us. I'm sorry it took me a little longer to get to you than we had planned, man. But I really wanted to hear from you because this situation, man, it has a lot of people in the uproar. You have a lot of people that have a lot of emotions toward it. And what I want us to do is take our emotions and let's match them up with some facts and some stacks, and let's find out what we can do from this point to move forward and start to make a change. But before then, I wanted to give you an opportunity just to let us know how did you feel once the verdict first came out, and was it something you were expecting, or was it more of a surprise to you?
The feeling that I felt as a result of the verdict being put it out there, I felt as though I had been kicked repeatedly. I felt that I was reliving every atrocity against a person that looks like me over and over again. I was having an internal rerun of sorts, a cultural rerun, and it felt like a sense of hopelessness. My thing is, I'm 31, and so, of course, I did not grow up in the civil rights era, but my thing is, you always have that hope. You have that idea that you're hoping and you're holding to with everything you have in you, that maybe tonight it won't be the same way. And then, of course, looking into my son's eyes, who was 8, his name is Adonis, looking into his eyes, and I tell you what, I held him a little bit longer. I know he was like, Daddy, what are you doing? But yes, I definitely held my son a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and especially having a son, looking at him in his eyes and knowing that he's 8, he's about 8 years away from really being out there on his own to get to move around and have that interaction, with the first police officer. And I've often said this before, man. We have to teach our kids differently than anybody else in this country. We have to spend time where you're spending time teaching them about what college you want to go to. Well, before we get them there, we have to teach them how to interact with the police, how to make sure that you're not, with a group bigger than maybe 2 or 3. Don't tell me what you see other people will size their group in. When the group looks like the one you're probably going to be in, make sure it's not too many. Make sure you don't have too many people in your car. When somebody comes up, turn a dome light on, let the windows down, put your hands on the steering wheel. Don't make too many quick, sudden movements. Describe every movement that you're doing. You have to pound this into your child's head, because otherwise, if you don't, they can end up dead. And so I understand the feeling that you have right now, saying, okay, I looked at my child and said, look, I have to hold you a little bit longer, and knowing eventually I have to let this grip go and let you go out there and pray that you come back every time I send you out.
Exactly.
So, man, I wanted you to give, because I know you've written a book, man, and even the title of the book, why I won't hire black people or black folk. I want to make sure I had it right, but and I found it very interesting, man. So I know you have some history and some insight to just our cultural issues. And so now I want to ask you to speak a little bit about the book and why you wrote the book, and then I want to have a follow up question to ask you. Where do we go from here? What is it community wise that we should start working to, and what type of concepts should we start to come up with to move forward with this?
Right. So, as a entrepreneur coach and as someone who has been in the entrepreneurship business since I was 22, so almost a decade now, and in the military and defense contract work, all of that, I understood at that time, as I understand now, that there is a breakdown in making sure that black people, especially in my generation and younger, have the necessary skills to not only attain a job, but be retained as well. There are certain cultural differences that we're, especially like my own family, my own cousins will tell me, but Asa, I'm black. That's what we do. I said, no. The possibility of blackness is not relegated to you not coming to work on time. It is not relegated to you feeling as though you're going to confuse your power and your strength in having a bad attitude. No, we will not allow that. And I say nothing, and I do mean this. I say absolutely nothing in that book that anyone my age and older received on a consistent daily basis from their parents, frat brothers, sorority sisters, uncles, what have you, in another time. Mm-hmm. So that's why when they read, yes, my title is what it is. My cover is what it is. Why I Won't Hire Black People is a real book. However, no one, black, white, red, brown, or doesn't matter, that has read the book has a issue once they complete it. I understand marketing, and I understand being in your face because you won't change unless you feel that someone is attacking you.
Wow.
And I understand the process that needs to happen to disrupt your level of comfort. I don't want us to be comfort. I want us to excel. And the same thing with the riot. My thing is, yes, do I condone the riots? I do not. However, I understand that it is part of the process because it is disrupting the status quo and disrupting our level of comfortability.
Man, you hitting it on the point, man. You hitting it right on the head. Now, let me ask you this. So now the thing is, okay, I don't believe that most of us understand what black is. And I don't mean black as even a race, but this plays into it. Black is dominant. Black is the one thing that can come in and shut down everything else. If you mix black with any other color, that color stands no chance. So now take that from the color and put it into yourself and understand that there is nothing created on this earth that wasn't started by black people. So for you to come in and say, well, this is what we do. Well, I think a re-education needs to start to happen. Let me show you what we really do. Not this stuff that you have considered cultural standard that allows you to to be lazy. Let me show you what we really do. And I'll take you back to the times where the first governments were made, where the first banks were made, where the first irrigation systems were made. And let me show you what we really do. And I think the education part of it, the knowledge, the understanding on where you really come from. You didn't come from a Lil Wayne video. Sorry. You didn't come from whatever else foolishness that we see on TV. We didn't come from that. We have a long, matter of fact, we have the oldest history. And so how do we start to get the knowledge put into people's heads that we are the most dominant race of people and get us to start acting as such?
You raise a great point, and I would even, well, first off, hats off going to the late Carter G. Woodson for the miseducation of the Negro, because that's along the lines of what you were talking about. But as far as where to go now, my thing is understanding the power in which blackness has. Why I said that is because I've been on social media since the verdict happened. And I understand that people are trying their best. They are doing everything they know to do. And so, for instance, Black Friday, this situation has come up. And people want to now boycott Black Friday. And we understand the economic strength of what that would do. It would cripple. But it would only cripple for a night. But social media is saying, and I have some people my age and younger that are saying, they're not saying why we should or why we shouldn't. They're lost on the fact of why is this even a possibility? Why? Because they don't even know that black people in America are the number one consumers, period, not of an item, not of a brand, but period. We have over $1 billion buying capacity, and we do not know how to do that. We do not know how to consolidate our efforts and enact change. We don't know how to consolidate our efforts to enact change at the voting polls, enact change at the cash register, or enact change in our community. That issue. That's my issue, being able to understand the power in which you actually have. And when you say the white man this, the white man that, you are giving and allowing someone else the power over you, because you're saying your conditions cannot be changed unless something or someone outside of myself does that.
Man, let me tell you, just to show you how much, first of all, we are looked at as nothing more than ATMs, okay? Money just comes out of us. We don't retain it. We don't invest it. We don't share it with each other. It just comes out. Now, to give you understanding, and you're going to know exactly what I'm saying, for those of us that can remember and go back in time, to show you the power that black people have, 3 of the last TV stations that has been introduced on regular TV started out black stations. We all know Fox News right now to be the most right-wing station in the world. Fox started out with A Living Color and Martin and all those other shows. Why? Because the way they build their brand is they need money. So they put black shows on because they can sell advertisement on black shows because they know we're going to consume. And then once that happens, you can't find a black show on there. The CW, UPN, they all started out black shows. They had the Parenthood with Robert Townsend and all this. Next thing you know, Buffy the Vampire and Veronica Mars is taking over. Why? Because these stations needed money, and the way to get money is to show shows to black people so that commercial advertising. You showing black shows? Yeah, we want in. You show. 18 to 4. Oh yeah, they buy up a storm. Put the commercials on there. Once they get enough money, your programming gets taken out. Other programming gets put in. So if you look at it, in the last 3 major stations to come on regular TV has been Fox, UPN, and WB, and we all know they consolidated and went to whatever it is now. But they all started out, and we consider those almost, wow, these are kind of some black networks. And so you have to understand the power you have and how they use you and your money to get what they want. So if you want to talk about how much power that somebody else have, understand that whoever runs those stations gain all of their momentum and money from you. And when they switched over and they went on somewhere else, they forgot about you. Why? Because they took all the money that you had and that they needed, and then they went on. They said, well, okay, now the pennies we were paying the people on these black shows, now we can pay major dollars to the people on the Caucasian shows, and we can go on about our business, and y'all find somewhere else to go do your TV. And so you have to understand the power of the dollar that you possess. And until then, you're right, man, we're going to consistently be in a situation where we're blaming someone else, hoping that somehow, some way they change so we can change.
Exactly. Not just blaming, but also being pimped. So what I mean by being pimped is our culture. They love our culture. And I'm not saying they as white. I'm not saying they as anything. Anything or anyone outside of being a black individual, especially a black American, because we set the agenda as far as culture is concerned. Because I've been in Western and Eastern Europe. I've been to Brazil, walked the streets of Paris, Afghanistan, and Iraq, and understand that they will dress the way we're portrayed. They will talk the way they hear us speak in movies. However, the moment you come into their space, they are indeed acting as though you carry a living and breathing virus.
Man.
With that said, you don't want to be pimped. You don't want someone to take your culture without the content of you being the beautiful representation of blackness.
Man, I listen. I'm excited that we were able to make this connection, man. This is, we have to have you back on, man, because I'll tell you what, this is the information, and what I love about it is, I mean, we're in the same age range, and the thing is, we have to start highlighting people like yourself that are bringing truth to the situation. You know, we can patty cake and play around and say that, you know, this is the problem, that's the problem, but no. I'm in the same world you are. I deal with the same brutality you're dealing with. But you have to understand, if you are trying to look at my success on whatever level you want to call it, it's because I know how to play the game, and I know how the game is played. Now, we always run around talking about, you know, game, recognize game. And the sad part about it, most people don't recognize game. Game has been played around you all day long. And guess what? You sitting around with twiddling your thumbs and letting it happen. Listen, nobody likes for change to be enacted upon them without any type of say so. That's the worst feeling in the world. So I'm saying, if you don't like that feeling, what do you get out and go do? So and that's the thing. And so we need concepts, we need people, we need forums, we need to start to motivate, mentor, and push our community forward, man, because right now I don't believe in stagnation. I believe that, you know, people say, well, you know, you're stagnant. I'm like, no. Stagnant means standing in the same spot. You're either moving forward or you're going backwards. So I feel that we are going backwards in so many ways. And the thing is that, yes, we have our people that are getting more college educated. They're starting to develop businesses and starting to really be a player. But it's not until we get the collective unit to come forward that we're going to be able to compete. And I think you can agree with me on this. Anytime that we are allowed into a system, we end up taking it over. Why? Because we are the dominant race. You can argue me down, but that's scientific fact. Anytime, how do you go from slavery to having a man that's a president? How do you go from having, listen, Michael Jackson is arguably the most famous guy ever. Well, right about the time Michael Jackson came along, before that, he couldn't even have his black face on his record. So the thing is so you're working in an industry that, well, I say you work in an industry that wasn't created for you. There's only one institution that was ever created for us. Well, it was two. One was slavery and one was prisons. So other than that, the laws are not set up in your favor. But that is the reason to go out and fight, man. That is it. And so I just want you, man, to close it out and let me know what's your thoughts on where do we go from here and what do we do next.
So my thing is, you brought up something very that triggered my brain, and you talked about playing the game. You know how to play the game. My thing is what we're going to do to go next that will be beneficial and helpful is knowing what damn game we're playing. So if you're worried about the spades tournament and the domino championship and not realizing that people are playing chess and that they are moving strategically, they're not playing a hand. They're not trying to win a hand.
No.
They're trying to win it. So that's my thing. Being strategic in the game itself, knowing how the game is played. So, for instance, what next steps? Well, for my thing is personally, everyone dealing with what's going on and what the verdict was, what's going on in Ferguson and all of that, the first step, breathe. We're forgetting to breathe, people. breathe. We have a cloud of images and content and things just barraging ourselves on a continuous basis. It's like we're feeding off of everything going on, and just breathe. Take a step back. Breathe for just a moment. Once we do that, now give yourself the ability and the permission to mourn what happened. Somebody's baby is gone. Somebody's baby does not come back. Somebody's life is changed forever. I cannot imagine. I will not even allow myself permission to imagine my life without my son in it. Mm-hmm. So because of that, mourn what happened. Of course. Once you mourn, now think and plan in order for action to take place. Because my thing is, you can't not really blame the rioters because you keep saying, take action. Y'all not doing nothing. Take action. And then when they take action with the only tools and concepts that they know, which is violence, now you have a problem with them. They don't know what they don't know. So make sure that we have strategy in place. And I blame strategy on myself, on other leaders. I don't care what color you are. If you're about the human experience, I'm blaming you. We knew for 100 days the possibility of this happening, but we did nothing. We did not have a plan in place for when this happens, it could look like this, because we've all lived through L.A., the riots there. We lived through other things, depending on your age. Uh-huh. So what in the world are we acting as though we don't know what's coming?
You know, and that's the thing. It's so man, it's almost like, man, the same thing you said, I told someone, I said, you have to understand, I don't condone the riots. There's probably are some other ways that this thing could have happened, some more positive ways. But you can't take for granted that everybody knows what you know. So with that being said, what they're saying is the younger generation, the patience that the older generation has, we don't have. Okay? So, and the thing is that when you have an older generation that we have watched get walked over in their waiting. We've watched get passed over in their waiting. We've watched this get ignored in their waiting. The younger generation is saying, listen, you never shown me how your waiting works. Only thing you show me is how your waiting kept getting you passed by. So we're going to do something. Now, I tell people all the time, yes, the rioting was probably could have the whole situation rioting and the first time probably could have been done differently, but it wasn't. If it wasn't for the rioting that happened the first time, and I give those people credit to keep going out there protesting every day. If it wasn't for that, this would be like the I want to say his name was Jordan Davis that got shot inside of the car down in Florida. See, we had the whole uproar of Trayvon Martin, but the Jordan Davis thing kind of got swept under the rug because there was no big uproar from the ground to say, hey, let's make sure that we get this guy prosecuted who shot into a car with 4 unarmed teens. You know, and so what happens if it wasn't for the rioting, we would not be in Ferguson, Missouri today. It would have been one of those things they could have put the verdict out. Oh, man. Okay, well, you know, maybe we'll get them next time. No, if they hadn't done what they done, we wouldn't be here today. So although it might have been a different way to do it, that was the only tool, the only way they had to use a voice that they felt that was not being heard.
Exactly. And then just to make sure that everybody is being heard. And my thing is, protesters make a difference. Rioters and all of, what's going on, guess what? They make a difference. And guess what? Politicians that are going to work today using pencil to paper, they're putting in work. And people who are throwing money at the problem, guess what? It's the reason why they're doing it. Revolutionaries need funds.
Yes.
Revolutionaries need laws. Revolutions need protesters, people in the streets. Just because your outrage, your animosity, your discontent looks like one thing does not mean you can then say someone else's version of what their outrage is important and not valid.
Man, I think you said it all right there. I tell you what, man, we're definitely gonna be in contact after this show. I have to have you back on so we can do a longer segment. I mean, I love your points, man. I want to even get you on, and we'll talk even more about your book, man. But just speaking of your book, I want you to let everybody know where they can find it at.
They can find me at asaleveaux.com. That is ASALEVEAUX. Or if there are any veterans in the house, that's www.alpha, Sierra Alpha, Lima, Echo Victor, Echo Alpha, Uniform X-ray.com.
Make sure they can't miss you. I feel you on that, man. So listen, let me tell you, it was an honor talking to you, and I'm glad you took the time out to talk to us, man. We'll definitely be back in contact.
Yes, sir. Dreams and blessings.
All right, man. Take care. Listen, that was Asa Leveaux, and I probably messed his name up again. I am horrible with names, but horrible with names.